Assalamualaikum. It's good to see you on this Monday. I'm Ras Adiba Radzi and these are the top stories. Kelantan government denies pneumonia linked to mining activities. Witness reveals Datuk Sri Najib had influence over co-op loan. And 6 convicted over notorious 2018 gang rape and murder of 8-year-old girl. We begin 7Edition with this story. The Kelantan government today denied claims that the spread of pneumonia among the Batik tribe of the Orang Asli community in Kampung Kuala Koh, Gua Musang was due to mining activities. Its Deputy Menteri Besar, Datuk Muhammad Amar Nik Abdullah, said reports from the State Health Department showed that in this case, the pneumonia was an airborne disease and not due to water.
News reports have suggested that several deaths reported in Kampung Kuala Koh recently could have been due to contamination of ponds from where the Orang Asli got their water supply.
Kalau kita kata melombong apa semua, dia melibatkan mungkin pencemaran sungai dan sebagainya. Tapi setakat ni laporan awalnya ialah pneumonia ni kesulitan untuk bernafas. Dan dia ni berkait dengan udara. Udara. Jadi tak ada sekaitan dengan air. Jadi kalau kita nak kata ini kaitan dengan melombong terlalu awal lah. Itu statement tu saya rasa tidak bertanggungjawab.
Datuk Muhammad Amar was speaking to reporters after attending a meeting at the Kelantan Menteri Besar's official residence in Kota Baru, Kelantan today. Asked if the state government had approved any mining activities at the settlement, he said the matter would be checked with the Lands and Mine Office. Datuk Muhammad Amar, who is also the State Public Administration, Regional Development, People's Wellbeing and Integrity Committee Chairman, evaded the question of whether there were any illegal mining activities in the area.
Now let's cross over to our reporter on the ground, Wan Ezul Islam, for updates on the patients receiving treatment in Kelantan. Wan Ezul, how are the patients doing so far and what has the Health Ministry said about their symptoms?
Thank you, Ras. Very good evening. Assalamualaikum. Now, the latest updates for the Orang Asli issue here in Gua Musang, Kelantan. Now, the Ministry of Health has confirmed that 50 Orang Asli from the Batik tribe in Kuala Koh, Gua Musang are still receiving outpatient treatment in 3 different hospitals around Kelantan. I'm currently standing in front of Hospital Gua Musang, where it is expected that 37 of the 50 Orang Asli are being treated here for an illness caused by an unknown virus. Another 12 villagers are, of course, receiving care at Hospital Kuala Krai, while one patient, a 3-year-old baby boy, is currently receiving treatment in the intensive care unit ICU of the Raja Perempuan Zainab II Hospital in Kota Baru. Health Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Zulkifli Ahmad, who arrived here earlier today, has been briefed on the medical status of the patients here at the Gua Musang Hospital. Now, the closed-door briefing was held by Hospital Director Dr. Nik Mohammed Faisal Zainal Abidin, who was also attended by 30 staff involved in the care of the patients here in this hospital. Now, the hospital director has ruled out that leptospirosis as the cause of the illness, and it also could be a result of other viral infection through the respiratory system. Now, as of yesterday, it's been reported that 99 Orang Asli from the Batik tribe in Kuala Koh are believed to have similar symptoms to that of pneumonia. Those symptoms include that of difficulty breathing or shortness of breath, as well as flu, fever and cough. The Health Ministry is currently running tests and will make an announcement in the near future when it knows the cause of the illness. Now, Health Minister has advised the public not to go anywhere near the settlement for the risk of infection. I've been made aware that the radius of infection for the village in Kuala Koh is approximately 3 kilometers. Earlier today, in a press conference, the Minister discussed with reporters the challenges in providing assistance to the Orang Asli community and why it has been difficult thus far to trace the cause of infection. Now, let's hear what he has to say from the press conference.
tim kesihatan kami kalau keluar untuk mencari. Itu yang sedikit kendala kerana mereka move around, especially yang sakit. Kalau ingin tahu, mereka tidak mahu meninggal mati di tempat masing-masing. Dia bila sakit tu dia move out. Itu menjadikan ia lebih sukar untuk kita kesani, because they are nomadic, dengan istilahnya itu, they move around.
Now, apart from that, the Health Minister has advised anyone living in the Kuala Lumpur area who is experiencing symptoms of fever or cough to immediately seek medical attention at the nearby clinic or hospital. Now, Ras, here is what we will be expecting in the upcoming days or tomorrow as well. The Health Ministry, along with other relevant agencies, will be trying to locate the graves of 12 Orang Asli members from the Batik tribe who were said to have died of pneumonia in Kampung Kuala Lumpur here over the past month. The bodies will be exhumed for post-mortem to figure out the actual cause of death and whether their disease had indeed been affected others in the village. As of now, that's all the updates you have from me, Wanisul Islam, as well as my cameraman Amutan here in Gua Musang, Kelantan. Let's head over back to you in studio, Kak Ras. Thank you.
Thank you for those updates, Wan Aizul, and please take good care of yourself, you and the crew. Now, meanwhile, medical expert Dr. Rohaya Ramli said a lung infection or pneumonia can be caused by viruses such as influenza or bacteria, which can be deadly if left untreated. She said patients suffering from the illness carry symptoms such as high fever, breathing difficulties, and severe cough.
When you talk about when you talk about infection, you're talking about viruses or bacteria. Okay, most of the time it starts off with a viral infection. Okay, but once it starts going into the lungs, that means you're talking about pneumonia. It could be viral like influenza, but also bacterial as well. And the symptoms would be more severe. That means high fever, difficulty to breathe, and severe cough. It can be very bad. It can, untreated. And in certain categories of people, people who are immunocompromised, for example, people who are uncontrolled diabetics, the elderly, the very young, they are immunocompromised. People who are on kidney dialysis, these people are immunocompromised. So it is potentially fatal without treatment. Hong Kong. You get what I mean or not? Because
we'll have more updates as the story develops tomorrow.
Okay, fair enough.
In other news, a group of thieves carted away a staggering 5 million ringgit worth of jewellery and other valuables from a goldsmith store which was closed for the Aidilfitri holiday over the weekend. The burglary at the Section 7 shop in Shah Alam, Selangor was only realised by the owner at 10 a.m. today as he was reopening the premises to resume business. An initial investigation that the thieves had gained entry to the premises via the ventilation system at the back of the building. All the jewellery in the 4 safe boxes stored in the strong room were taken. Police believe that the burglary took place on Friday between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. involving at least 3 suspects described as professional criminals. Investigators will review CCTV recordings from nearby premises as part of the investigation. Police are also urging anyone with information on the incident to come forward to assist in the probe. The Kuala Lumpur High Court was told today that Datuk Seri Najib Tun Razak had influence over the Retirement Fund Incorporated KUAP's decision to grant a loan to SRC International Sdn Bhd. Former KUAP Chief Executive Officer Datuk Azian Mohamad Noor said the former Prime Minister, who was also the Finance Minister at the time, was her ultimate boss and thus had influence over KUAP's decision to grant a loan to SRC International. When re-examined by Deputy Public Prosecutor DPP Datuk Ishak Muhammad Yusof, Datuk Azian said although there was no legal compulsion on the part of the accused, he still wielded a certain degree of influence, given that he was the Finance Minister and the fact that the Ministry of Finance Incorporated owned SRC International. When asked later by Datuk Seri Najib's lawyer Tan Sri Muhammad Shafiq Abdullah to clarify what she meant by influence, Datuk Azian explained that she felt it was not an uncommon reaction from a subordinate when instructions were given from a superior. when the DPP asked why Dato' Azian had to see the Prime Minister and convey that KWAP could only give 1 billion ringgit, the prosecution witness said that it was done upon the request of the investment panel.
Also at today's hearing, the prosecution presented its 39th witness, former SRC International Director Tan Sri Ismi Ismail, who expressed concerns about the firm's corporate governance and financial practices to former Chief Executive Nik Faisal Arif Kamil. Tan Sri Ismi said that Nik Faisal would seek to allay these by saying the firm had already dealt with the issues. He told the court that all board decisions had to be referred to Datuk Sri Najib for his advice and consent. He said he took the arrangement to mean that all matters and discussions at SRC International would be communicated by Nik Faisal to Datuk Sri Najib. The former SRC International Director, who was appointed to the post in August 2011, said he resigned 3 years later after failing to accept Nik Faisal's corporate practices. The hearing before High Court Judge Muhammad Nazlan Muhammad Ghazali continues.
Meanwhile, the High Court today fixed July 4th for re-mention of the corruption cases involving Kinabatangan MP Datuk Sri Bung Mokhtar Radin and his wife Datin Sri Zizi Izzat A. Samad. The couple are facing charges amounting to 2.8 million ringgit over approval of Felcra Berhad to invest 150 million in public mutual unit trusts.
Judge Rosina Ayub fixed the date after Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission MACC Deputy Public Prosecutor Alan Suman Pillay told the court that some documents were still incomplete. The prosecution also informed that they would make an application for the couple's cases to be tried together and transferred to the Kuala Lumpur High Court. On May 3rd, Datuk Sri Bung Mokhtar pleaded not guilty at the Kuala Lumpur Sessions Court on 3 counts of receiving 2.8 million ringgit in total as a bribe for obtaining approval for Felcra Berhad to make the investment. Datin Sri Zizi Izzat, a former actress, also pleaded not guilty to 3 counts of abetting her husband on the same offences. Both husband and wife face a jail term of up to 20 years and a fine of not less than 5 times the amount of the bribe, or 10,000 ringgit, whichever is higher upon conviction.
When we return, Keanu Reeves makes first appearance in video game. Details next. Thanks for staying with us. Now let's hop on to our daily segment, Clickbait, where we take a look at what's trending and making rounds in the cyber world today. The corkscrew climber is definitely one of the most far-reaching components of any playground, but the question is, does anyone even know how to play it? You may recall using it as an emergency escape while playing catch with friends, but how to exactly use it? A man from Japan shared on Facebook the right way to go down this playground staple. Here's the story.
The guy demonstrates the correct way of using the equipment by sitting at the top of the pole, sliding your body all the way down the spiral track. In the 22-second video, it is assumed that the Japanese father was showing his daughter on how to use the corkscrew climber. Facebook users were just as mind-blown, with many sharing that their childhood mystery had finally been solved, while others thought the action served another purpose as well, to help lessen the workload of the cleaners. Well, it is proven once again that every day is really a process of learning indeed.
It's time for My Game On for some exciting updates in the gaming world. Ahead of the opening of the Electronic Entertainment Expo, or E3, Microsoft on Sunday gave the world a first glimpse of a powerful next-generation Xbox gaming console called Project Scarlet. No pricing plans for the new console yet, but the new Xbox was promised to be released in time for the Christmas holiday shopping season in 2020.
Xbox.
Xbox head Phil Spencer pulled back the curtain on Project Scarlet, the creation of a successor to the Xbox One that will give game makers the power they need to bring their creative visions to life. Xbox battles in the console gaming arena with Sony, which is working on a new generation PlayStation. The commitment to consoles by longtime contenders in the market comes with the rise of video games, hosted as subscription services streamed Netflix-style from data centers in the internet cloud. Now, Xbox says it is adding the ability for players to stream games in their libraries for play on mobile devices with Game Pass subscriptions.
Whether you're using a console in our data center or your console at home, this October, you'll be able to use our hybrid gaming cloud to play your games wherever you go.
According to Microsoft, the new service will be previewed later this year.
About more seamless worlds with the next generation. We can bring the world to life in a way we...
After the break, one dead as crane crashes into Dallas apartment block. We'll be right back. I'm Ras Adiba Radzi and you're still with us on 7Edition. 6 men were convicted on Monday over the notorious 2018 gang rape and murder in India of an 8-year-old girl from a Muslim nomadic tribe that provoked horror and stoked inter-religious tensions. Sexual violence is rife in India, and outrage over the case contributed to the government introducing the death penalty for child rapists. According to the charge sheet, the girl was abducted while she was out grazing horses and taken to a village in the Katwa district of the northern Indian region of Jammu on January 10th last year. In an ordeal lasting 5 days, she was sedated and held in a Hindu temple, repeatedly raped and then strangled and bludgeoned to death. The 6 Hindu men are due to be sentenced later and will face the death penalty with a minimum of life imprisonment. 3 of the 6 were also found guilty of taking bribes and destroying evidence, but still face life imprisonment under strict conspiracy laws. A 7th man was acquitted, while an 8th person who claims to be underage faces a separate trial. Trade battles were front and centre of policymakers' minds at a G20 meeting as the US and China continue to threaten each other with tariffs that economists fear could slam the brakes on global growth. This then led finance ministers and central bankers from the world's 20 top economies pledging to take action against intensifying global trade and geopolitical tensions. Following 30 hours of wrangling in what one official described as a tense atmosphere, G20 finance minister and central bank chiefs produced a hard-fought final statement, acknowledging that growth remains low and risks remain tilted to the downside.
Almost everybody in the room thinks that the trade tensions are a threat to growth. All the international organizations, most of the members of the G20, all the EU members, Japan, etc. So everybody believes that. That's not obviously always the mood in the American administration. I wouldn't say that it's them against all the others, but it looks like it sometimes. Even if everybody also criticizes some form of aggressivity from China. So,
IMF chief Christine Lagarde warned the tariffs could shave global gross domestic product (GDP) by 0.5% or about $455 billion in 2020. U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said Washington stood ready to impose more tariffs on China if President Donald Trump and China's Xi Jinping fail to strike a deal at the G20 summit later this month in Osaka. Taking a different line from the other policymakers, however, Mnuchin added the slowdown in some parts of the world was not due to trade difficulties. He further said the friction could even benefit some countries if companies relocated from China to avoid tariffs. Now, updates on the Hong Kong protests against plans to allow extradition to China. Things turned ugly after police fought with protesters early on Monday, using batons and pepper spray as they tried to clear the crowd from Parliament. Protesters in return hurled bottles and used metal barricades as police moved in on a small group who had vowed to stay outside the legislature overnight.
The melees began shortly after midnight, following a day that had seen a huge peaceful protest make its way through the city without incident. More than 1 million people marched through the cramped streets of Hong Kong on Sunday in a noisy, colorful demonstration calling on the government to scrap its plan. The bill will allow for requests from authorities in mainland China, Taiwan and Macau for suspects accused of criminal wrongdoing such as murder and rape. Meanwhile, the march was seen as a major rebuke of Hong Kong's leader, Carrie Lam, who has pushed for the amendments to be passed before July. Lam added the legislature would debate the bill on Wednesday as planned, rejecting calls to delay or withdraw the law.
This is a very important piece of legislation that will help to uphold justice and also ensure that Hong Kong will fulfill her international obligation in terms of cross-boundary and transnational crimes.
The protests plunged Hong Kong into a new political crisis, heaping pressure on Lam's administration and her official backers in Beijing. It is also believed to be one of the most controversial pieces of legislation since a 2003 national security bill, which was scrapped by the authorities after at least 500,000 residents took to the streets to oppose it.
I'm Ras Adiba Radzi. Thanks for watching. Until we meet again. Assalamualaikum.